Why are Koreans so much prettier than everyone else? Bold statement, I know, especially since beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that is very subjective. However, Korea is cutting edge when it comes to dermatology, plastic surgery, procedures, treatments, and when you walk along the street, you can't tell if someone is 25 or 45. Most Koreans seem to have this glowing glass skin. Their hair seems to be healthy and strong, and even their nails are gorgeous. And this isn't just the celebrities. I'm literally talking everyday people that you come across in Korea. And as someone who is obsessed with beauty and curious about sociology and the way that beauty is perceived and society changes along with trends, I wanted to dive into some of the trends, to some of the cultural differences, and understand what Koreans are doing different. And whether or not you think Koreans are or are not prettier than everyone else, I want to understand how they get this glowing, supple skin, this hair, these nails, and what's in their beauty routines. Because you know that 25-step Korean glass skin routine? I found out that was a lie. If you don't know about that, you need to click literally right here and right here. Add this to your watch later playlist, because I went onto the streets of Korea to interview everyday moms, dermatologists, doctors, office workers, and find out what is in their routines. And let me tell you, it's not 25 steps, but what they do use and what I did uncover is fascinating. The first thing that I've noticed is that this keeps on flipping in, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. Really, the first thing I did actually notice is that Korea seems to have this whole body approach to beauty and wellness. It's not just their skincare routines that they care about. They also have extensive hair routines. They have body care routines, but they don't use deodorant and they don't shave. We might need to go into that into another video. But not only is it the products they use, but they take so many supplements. Almost everyone that I spoke to, including people who only had maybe 2 steps in their skincare routine, took supplements on a daily basis. Liquid supplements, powdered supplements, pill supplements, not to mention the food that they eat is often fermented. Kimchi and banchan are some of the most popular foods in Korea, and kimchi is essentially fermented cabbage. That fermentation has healthy bacteria that not only benefits the gut, but can benefit our health overall. Did you know that our gut is responsible for so many things, including creating serotonin? Serotonin is that neurotransmitter that's linked to happiness inside of the brain. But there may be some connection between our gut health and our skin health, because just the way our gut needs bacteria and has a microbiome, our skin has a microbiome too. And our skin's microbiome is different than the microbiome in like our armpits or our other areas, which is why sometimes you sweat and smell here but not here. But again, Koreans don't smell here all the time because they have a special gene that makes it so they don't sweat, and that's why they don't use deodorant. We're gonna talk about that in another video. Everyone takes supplements, and it was crazy. I even went to this clinic called the VS Line Clinic, and the doctor had not just products on the shelf in the waiting room the way that we have in America, but he literally had supplements, and that was fascinating for me to see. I also got to visit a company called Minsu Story in Korea, and this is fascinating because this is where the real science happens. You see, Minsu Story is a supplement manufacturer, and supplements in Korea are regulated completely differently than the way we do in America. In America, a supplement is not FDA cleared. Basically, people could put sawdust in a capsule and try to sell it to you, unless it's considered a drug in which it has to go through regulatory testing. In Korea, it's totally different. They have drugs, but then they have supplements that are regulated. Auditors come in, the government comes in, and this is good when we have regulation because they're ensuring that things are being done properly. Underneath that, they do have a couple of items that are not as well regulated, but supplements are held to a higher standard than even sunscreens are in Korea, which to me was just crazy. And Minsu Story is one of the best supplement manufacturers that takes the highest quality ingredients from Korea and from around the world and creates supplements that have won awards. Minsu Story also started with a doctor who had a whole body approach, literally looking at how nutrition impacted beauty. So this supplement company started with a doctor who was healing people based on medicines and foods, and then they said, we're so good at supplements, why don't we do skincare? Because skincare is less difficult than supplements, and we aced the supplements. We can do both. And they did. And they do a great job of it. Now, when it comes to supplements, I haven't started taking these all. There are some that I'm kind of playing around with or learning about for the first time, but it was really interesting to learn about what everyday Koreans that I met on the street were taking on a regular basis versus some of my influencer friends and some of the things that other content creators like to do versus what some of the doctors and professionals actually use themselves. Nonetheless, it seems like Korea has this huge emphasis on whole body beauty, taking those supplements from the inside out. And then you can't deny food. You know, what we put in our body has an impact on how we grow from tiny roly-poly babies. You know, you take a baby, you put food in, and you give it years to grow, and it becomes a hopefully healthy, functioning adult, right? What's the difference between baby and adult? Basically time and food. Hopefully other things like shelter and cognitive development and community, but definitely food. And how are we so naive to think that what we put in our body, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, doesn't have an impact on the way we show up in the world? In America, for physician education, or basically what doctors have to study to become doctors, they're taught less than 48 hours of nutrition. Like in Western medicine, it is not protocol to learn about nutrition, which is just crazy. And I am a nutritionist, not a dietitian, but a nutritionist. And understanding how nutrition impacts everything from our skin to our body, it's kind of crazy that Western medicine doesn't listen to this as much. And this is a huge generalization. Not everyone eats like this, but if you look at Korea, where some of the staples are grains like rice, specifically purple rice that has a lot of antioxidants, you know, this fermented kimchi that's so good for the gut, banchan, which is kind of this array of fermented vegetables of all types with all sorts of nutrients, and that is literally the main food in Korea. And ramen. Ramen is another staple. But compare that to what we have in America. Yes, we do have ramen, which is delicious, but the staple foods are things like burgers. I mean, a McDonald's 99-cent burger is cheaper than a head of broccoli. What the f? And in America, it's common for families to have pizza or mac and cheese or chicken wings, things like that, or mashed potatoes and steak on a regular basis. Or even cereal with milk for breakfast, which seems like a fine option. But when you look at that cereal, it's a lot of sugar and doesn't have antioxidants, fiber, or many of those things that are eaten in Korea on a regular basis. So there is a huge difference there, and you have to wonder how that's playing into the overall health, overall happiness, and yes, overall beauty of two different cultures. Again, I'm still trying out supplements from Korea, and I'm going to try to introduce them slowly because I'm also taking hair supplements, which I love, but these are some of the Korean supplements that I took home with me that I've either already tried or I'm so excited to dig into. And I would be amiss to not say that Koreans do skincare all the time. Literally, it's not just wake up, wash your face, go, and then like at night, take off your makeup. Koreans are doing skincare 24/7. Everyone who's a beauty babe keeps 3 things with them at all times. Yes, sunscreen, but you already knew that. But they also have multi-balms and toner pads. These toner pads were crazy to me. They are like toners that are soaked in a pad that you take on the go. And people literally use them on their face. They kind of put them on like a mask when they're getting ready, and then they take them off and they put them on their hands and on their chest. There's a huge focus on hand care, chest care, and scalp care too, which in America, like, we just don't do that. But these toning pads are something that they even wipe across their face during the day. But a lot of people that I talked to spoke about microdust. This was fascinating to me. But apparently, especially for those who live in the city, they get this microdust that builds up on their face all the time. And as I kind of dug deeper, I was like, what is this microdust? Like, I've never heard of this before. And my little esthetician, critic, skeptic pants were like, what are you talking about, microdust? Like, that doesn't sound real. But they were saying that it's essentially this buildup from the day that has these damaging free radicals. It can cause dryness and dullness. It can make the skin look kind of gross, but it actually makes the skin dirty, and it can make it more wrinkled and crepey. And I realized, oh my God, they're talking about pollution. And when I said pollution to the person in the conversation that I was having, when I figured it out, she was like, yes, that's the English word, pollution. But they call microdust pollution that specifically impacts the face. And Seoul is a huge city. If you've never been, it is one of the most gorgeous cities in the world. It has a huge river going through. And I will say, when you're in the city, it can definitely get a little polluted. And when you're on the farms, which yes, I did go to a Korean farm and I saw how they literally make kimchi and gochujang. But when I was in the farms eating spicy onions like apples, you bet I got some dust on my face. Anyways, they literally carry these toning pads around with them, and they just swipe throughout the day. They also have multi-balms. Multi-balms we've spoken about before. If you haven't seen this video, go check them out. But they don't just use multi-balms on their face. They use them around the nose and the lips, especially where they get dry, but they also do them on the nails. Or I've even seen girls on the subway like take the multi-balm and what's left on their fingers and like rub it through the ends of their hair for split ends. I'm just like, no wonder your hair always looks amazing. In America, I feel like you can kind of tell when someone's wearing makeup. There are definitely, you know, the girlies who follow the tutorials on YouTube and TikTok and can do their makeup in such a natural way that it looks flawless. But I feel like in America, you can kind of tell when someone's wearing it. Whereas in Korea, Korea, you can barely tell at all. I think there's a few reasons to this. The first is that Korean skin, based on what I've seen, tends to have pores that are smaller. Pore size is largely genetic. You can do a couple of things for them, but they're mainly genetic. And it just seems like Koreans in general have smaller pores and Americans have larger pores. And of course, that's going to impact how cosmetics sit on the skin. But Koreans also have this plump, hydrated, bouncy skin. And in America, some people do, but it can be a little bit more crepey at times. Even like the ajumas in Korea. Ajuma means like grandma. You know that stereotypical lovely Korean lady who like carries that little shopping cart behind her and she wears like the leopard print pants? That's an ajuma, okay? We love ajuma. Saronghae. But ajumas, basically grandmas, even have fantastic skin. And you look at someone and you're like, oh, maybe she's 62, 63. She's 85. Like what? And she's still out here applying her sunscreen, making sure that she puts it on her hands, you know, and doing her hair. Anyways, it seems like Caucasian skin tends to wrinkle or get a little bit crepey a little bit faster. And that is a huge generalization, but just something I've noticed. But because of this and many other things, it seems like you can't really tell when Koreans are using as much makeup. I think it's not only skin and genetics, but also the way they apply makeup. I went to Olive Young, which is basically like a 2-story Sephora. They have skincare on the bottom floor, they have makeup on the top floor, like literally skincare heaven. Like you need to book a flight to Korea, pack an extra suitcase that you're just gonna fill with beauty products and do the medical tourism and do the skincare shopping. It is insane. But when I was looking at all these makeup products, I was like, all of these are so natural. They have blush cheek tints that you can also use on the lips. They have cushion creams and BB creams, which is again like a sunscreen that has a tint that they put on throughout the day. Not these thick, heavy foundations. In America, you go in, you have contours, you have, you know, Rare Beauty's liquid blush, which we love, but oh my God, 2 dots of the Selena Gomez Rare Beauty blush and you looking like a clown, baby. But there seems to be such a difference in how makeup is applied in Korea versus America. And I think that has a lot to do with it too, because when you can't see the makeup, you just think that they naturally look like that, or you see them on screen, you think it's natural. Whereas it could be natural, it could be genetics, but it's also the products that they use and the techniques that they do. And I guess it's kind of a testament to, in many cases, less is more. I mean, when I was in Korea and wearing makeup, I was definitely that person where I would apply the products and you could see them. In Korea, they just have this more natural approach to beauty products, more skin tints, more hydrating products, and it just is less product buildup on the face in general, and that just makes the product or the makeup less visible. And again, you'll literally look at someone and you'll think that they're completely makeup free, and then I would start talking to them and I would realize, oh my God, she's wearing like a tinted sunscreen product, she's wearing like a BB product, or oh, that's not just her cheeks, that is literally a skin tint. And I think the fact that they layer a couple layers of skincare, maybe 2 or 3, underneath their makeup application also helps, because if you have really good, supple, soft skin, you don't necessarily need as much makeup. I think it's just a cultural difference, but it ends up changing the way that we perceive and see what is natural versus made up beauty. And I don't mean made up as in made up and fake, I mean as makeup enhancing beauty versus makeup being the focus. You know how some people say like wear the color versus oh my God, the color is wearing you? Like, is this color wearing me? Probably. But there's some makeup where you wear the makeup and there's others where the makeup wears you. And I think that, again, huge generalization, but in America, the makeup is something that you almost want to show off. You have these bold brows or this lip that you can always see. In Korea, it's like, oh my God, is she actually wearing something or not? Even the men, oh my God, even the men use cheek tints and makeup on a regular basis. And it's not just homosexual men or men who are a little bit more feminine. Literally, regular men are like, I want to use this too, which is amazing. And I think it's so wonderful because skincare is a form of healthcare and beauty is something that we should all be able to enjoy. But it was really cool to see that men were not apprehensive to looking and feeling their best and using products that worked for them. I didn't see any men with like glitter eyeshadow, but like they would use like a lip tint to look really good, or they would use like a color correction cream. Whereas in America, there are some men that do that, but there's a much stronger resistance to men being able to use and enjoy cosmetics. I mean, in America, there was even a brand called War Paint that literally titled their concealer War Paint just so that men would feel confident using it because it was made for men to hide things like blemishes and redness, and it doesn't feel like you're going in and buying like a pink bottle of something that, you know, a Kardashian made. And I totally think that it's super fair that men deserve to have a market like that to enjoy beauty, but it's just crazy the way that it needs to be marketed differently. There's like this hyper masculinity on one side, and in Korea, based on my experience, it seems like it's just a bit more understanding that everyone deserves to have something that works for them. We also have to talk about Korean procedures and treatments, specifically the many treatments and procedures that happen. There have been statistics that say that 2 out of every 5 people in Korea have had something done. That could be major surgery surgery like blepharoplasty, which is literally an eyelid surgery, or it could be something like medical microneedling or a chemical peel. But it's normal for Koreans, men, women, and everyone in between to get regular skincare treatments, regular beauty treatments, scalp treatments. I've literally gone 2 times to a Lee Moon-won hair clinic. Oh my god, best thing ever. And they've told me some people fly across the world for them, but a lot of regulars in Korea come in. They have like a monthly subscription. They just come in monthly or weekly for their hair care. And like, that is normal. It's also normal for like girls to go get manicures together, or girls and guys to go get manicures, and the men will just get like a buff and clean. And men will go into these hair loss clinics, and men will get facials. Like, everyone is getting all these skincare treatments. It's actually become such a thing that we need to talk about this, but there's a specific law in Korea that bans the promotion of plastic surgery, or plastic surgery and like medical skincare treatments. For example, if you want to go into Korea and you live in Korea and you're a Korean citizen or a Korean content creator and you're trying to promote a plastic surgery clinic, you're not allowed to say the clinic's name and you're not allowed to say the doctor's name. And I've seen like a lot of YouTube posts where someone will say, oh, it's this blue building off of this subway station. And literally Koreans end up being like little detectives, and they go on an app called Naver, N-A-V-E-R. It's like an Uber plus Google Maps, but they literally search around for these key things like the color of the building or the train stop to find these places because it's illegal to promote. And I believe, I don't know exactly why, but it's my assumption and my belief that the government of Korea kind of banned that promotion because they didn't want Korea to be known as like a plastic surgery hub. There's definitely something to be said about the overdoing it of surgery or treatments or procedures, or about insecurity. And even though Korea is amazing for medical tourism, I can see where that's not something they want to be known for. And I also agree, like, we shouldn't be promoting that people go under elective surgery when there are dangers to it. I fully agree. But at the same time, even though I don't have all the answers and that's not my decision, that was something that I witnessed while I was there, and it was kind of fascinating to see. But all of that to say, yeah, it's normal for Koreans to go in for treatments and procedures literally all the time. And again, I did 7 treatments in one day. I cannot wait to tell you how they went. None of them are plastic surgery, none of them are invasive, but you know that I've done and been open about my medical microneedling before, or the fact that not only have I done laser, but I used to sell lasers. If you didn't know that your girl used to be a laser sales girl, it didn't go well. But when I was in Korea, I did 7 non-invasive treatments in one day. And again, if you have not seen that video, if you don't subscribe and hit all, you're gonna miss it. And I break down the cost of what this cost in Korea versus what it would cost in America. But all of that to say, like, it's not necessarily fair to compare ourselves when a lot of the people who have come to see me in clinic in America have never had a facial before. And it's so not fair to say, I've never had a facial versus someone who gets a treatment literally every other week or every other month. And I think that that's a huge difference in how beauty is consumed and perceived. And of course, if someone's getting advanced treatments every week, every month, their skin or their hair is going to look different than someone in America who's like, hey, I'm 34 and I'm coming in for my facial for the very first time. And of course, we have to talk about genetics, not just that pore size in general in Korea is smaller than America, or not just that Koreas have a special genetic makeup that makes it so that they don't sweat and they don't stink, or that they don't grow as much hair as we do in America. But there are some genetic things about plump, bouncy skin, about the collagen and elastin production in skin that is genetic. Obviously, we know that we can use sunscreen to protect the collagen and the elastin that we have. We can use things like medical microneedling and chemical peels and peptide treatments to help boost collagen in the skin. But there is a baseline that we're born with and a way that that collagen and that elastin degrades. And there's also our skin barrier with ceramides and hyaluronic acid and fatty lipids. And as we get older, sometimes our skin barrier can degrade quicker for certain genetic pools than other genetic pools. And this literally gets into statistics of humanity. There's so much that goes into genetics, and you can't really change that. There are epigenetics, which you can switch on and off. Again, eating healthier foods can literally trigger changes in your genes, or going for small bouts of exercise, even getting up and standing every day. I got an Apple Watch while in Korea, and it reminds me to stand up when I've been sitting forever. And even small lifestyle changes like that can have an impact on your genes, your epigenetics, flip things on or off and have huge changes for your body. And while you do have control over your epigenetics, we don't have control over our genes. And that means that for certain pools of the population, it's going to be a little bit harder to get a specific outcome than for others. And it would be amiss to not mention that, because again, when you walk down the street and you don't know if someone is 48 or 28, is that the treatments, the procedures, and the food and the lifestyle, or is that genetics as well. And I feel like it's unfair to not talk about that because that can have a huge impact. And this isn't always true, but there is a huge stereotype that certain races do age differently or do show the signs of aging differently. Just the way that if you take a set of people in a population and you look at the average height or the mean height, it may be higher for some races or some ethnicities versus for others. And again, there's a huge difference between race, ethnicity, nationality, etc. That's a whole different topic for another day. Just the way some Koreans don't have a need to shave is for another day. But a lot of this can boil down to genetics. And you gotta remember that no matter how many skin treatments or procedures you do, you can't just 180 your genetics. And let's be honest, there's a lot of societal pressure in Korea. Look at blepharoplasty or eyelid surgery. Double eyelid surgery is something that a lot of Koreans and a lot of people who are Asian choose to do. And that is something that is determined by genetics, right? And we actually needed to get into an entire conversation about beauty expectations, societal expectations around beauty, and pressure. Because definitely when you look at K-pop idols on a screen, is that negatively impacting someone's body image or beauty image if they don't look like that? I think that there is a bit of pressure as well that maybe as a foreigner I haven't been able to understand or really see to the same extent, but you can definitely say things about societal pressure or societal norms impacting what is seen as beautiful or people's desire to get treatments, eyelid surgery or regular surgery. Again, seeing that the statistics are that 2 in 5 people in Korea may be getting treatments and procedures, is there something societal there that needs to be discussed? And that is something that I am also diving into, hopefully going back to Korea for and trying to understand, not to label it as good or bad, but to dig into it, to understand the sociology of it, the psychology of beauty, the psychology of pretty privilege, and how media impacts us. And you know, this entire YouTube channel exists because I have a vision for the world that we get to see ourselves represented in media. Just the way when I had acne, I never saw anyone with blemishes on TV. And when I was a model, I would cover it all up with makeup so I could walk down a runway, but I never saw other models with acne. I wondered why I didn't see people who looked like me in magazines, or these other people who had gorgeous hair textures or different skin, these people who would come into the derm clinic and have beautiful melasma marks, or people with lupus who would literally have something called a butterfly rash. Why was that never spoken about in a beautiful way? Why was that never promoted? And this YouTube channel exists to teach you about beauty, to get women and men and non-binary friends excited about the science and the anatomy and the chemistry of our products and how they work with our skin, but also to show what different skin conditions look like. So we don't have to label them as bad, but we can understand them. We can change them if we want to, but we can also embrace them. And we can see ourselves represented in media, even if just right now it's just a YouTube video, seeing people with different skin tones, different hair types, different skin textures, different skin conditions. That's something I didn't get on TV. And that's why this channel exists. And that's why I love to dive into topics like, what is the difference between American and Korean beauty standards? Why do some people believe that Koreans are prettier than everyone else? And you know, I've even seen this comment under YouTube videos of people saying, I have to remind myself, it's not that I'm not pretty, I'm just poor. How much of that plays into it? And again, beauty is subjective. I grew up hating my acne, but I looked at others and saw them as beautiful. I now look at acne and blemishes and I don't see them as ugly. How do our opinions of beauty change based on trends and based on our knowledge? All of this fascinates me, as well as the beauty tourism in Korea. And if we need to dive into that, you know where the subscribe button is and you know how to click the all button if you are just as curious as I am, or if you believe that we should see ourselves reflected in media the same way that I do. But please tell me what you think about some of these differences that I've observed between Americans and Koreans, and what is your perspective of beauty? I think we all have one, and it's okay for that to be fluid and to change, but I find it fascinating and I want to know what you think. Overall, always remember to reapply that SPF, stay hydrated both orally and topically, walk around if your little watch tells you to walk around, because it's actually, this was a gift to me and I am so grateful that someone gave this to me in Korea. It is literally the coolest thing, and I actually can have a little butterfly. Look, I can have like a little butterfly as my little screensaver. I love it. Anyways, walk when your little biometer tells you to, stay hydrated, and most importantly, be beautiful both inside and out. I love you and I cannot wait to see you in this next video. Love you guys. Bye.